An interview has been circulating in Vatican circles for days that is destined to reignite a debate that many thought was now over. The speaker is Libero Milone, former Auditor General of the Holy See. The man who between 2015 and 2017 was tasked with examining the Vatican's accounts alongside a central figure in that era of reform, Cardinal George Pell. His words, released on March 12 to EWTN, bring back to the forefront two issues that continue to worry many observers: the true financial situation of the Holy See and the circumstances of the death of the Australian Cardinal. According to Milone, the work carried out in those years had brought to light financial anomalies that could not be dismissed as simple technical errors or administrative disorganization. The former auditor argues that some irregularities rather showed a structure that allowed the misuse of financial systems. He explained it very bluntly. It wasn't a computer error. We found precise instructions on how the system could be used. The most delicate point concerns the functioning of internal bank transfers. Milone claims that the system allowed the IBAN destination to be changed even after a transfer had been initiated. A technical detail that, if confirmed, would have enormous consequences for any financial system. In an institution that manages donations from across the Catholic world, the mere possibility of such a vulnerability raises inevitable questions. The anomalies, however, don't stop at the technical level. Milone also recounts a specific case that, in his opinion, suggests a possible misappropriation of funds intended for charitable purposes. The case concerns €2.5 million sent to a pediatric hospital for the construction of a new department. The transfer, the former auditor says, would have taken place in 10 installments of €250,000 each. The department, however, would never have been built. According to Milone, the money actually landed in the hospital's account, only to then leave the account again without the project being realized. The former auditor claims to have reported the case to the relevant Vatican authorities, but he claims that report was never followed by a proper investigative response. It is at this point that the story takes on even more disturbing tones. Milone claims to have submitted 15 reports of suspicious financial cases to the Holy See authorities. 15 incidents that, in his words, deserved thorough investigation. The reaction he received, he says, was very different. According to the former auditor, the Vatican's financial watchdog responded 14 times, claiming it was simply a misunderstanding. The Vatican prosecutor's office, however, never responded even once. It is on this point that Milone advances one of his most controversial hypotheses. The former auditor believes that his departure from the position was not a simple administrative change. In his opinion, his removal was linked to the fact that he was bringing to light particularly sensitive financial problems. But the statements sparking the most heated debate concern another issue: the official narrative regarding the Holy See's economic situation. Pope Leo XIV recently publicly declared that Vatican finances would be stable. In particular, a positive result of €60 million was recorded in 2024 by APSA, the Administration of the Patrimony of the Apostolic See, the body that manages the Vatican's real estate, investments, and financial assets. Milo openly disputes the interpretation of that data. According to the former auditor, that number does not at all represent the overall financial situation of the Holy See. Rather, it would be the result of a single internal entity. He explained it very clearly. The 60 million is not 60 million in profit for the Vatican. It is 60 million in profit for APSA. The crucial point, according to Milone, is another. A true picture of the Vatican's economic situation cannot be obtained by examining the separate financial statements of individual departments or institutions. Instead, a consolidated financial statement is needed that unites all the Holy See's economic entities. This was, according to Milone, the project that Cardinal Pell was working on. The goal wasn't simply to publish the accounts of individual facilities. The project aimed to create consolidated financial statements that would truly understand whether the entire system was profitable or losing money. Milone explains this with a very simple example. If a Vatican department sells a good to another department and records a profit, that profit exists only on paper. For the organization as a whole, it doesn't represent real money entering the system. These are what Milo calls internal profits, and he says it clearly. Internal profits are paper profits, not real profits. For this reason, the former auditor insists on a question that is increasingly circulating among financial observers and analysts today. Why aren't the Holy See's consolidated financial statements published? His answer is equally direct. Because perhaps there's a loss. This is where one of the most controversial lines of the interview comes in. Milone argues that presenting the 60 million figure without explaining the bigger picture risks creating a misleading perception among the faithful. His words are very explicit. If I'm told to announce 60 million and make the faithful around the world believe that the Vatican is following a profitable path, I think it's misleading. The interview, however, isn't limited to financial matters. Milone also addresses a topic that has raised questions for years: the death of Cardinal George Pell. The Australian cardinal, a central figure in the Holy See's economic reforms, died after what was considered routine hip surgery. At the time, the news deeply affected the Catholic world, because Pell had just returned to Rome and was seen by many as a figure destined to play a significant role in the fight for financial transparency. Milo says he found the circumstances of the death particularly strange. According to reports, the cardinal was in good health before the operation. The surgery was not considered particularly risky, yet a few hours later, Pell died. The former auditor recalls a temporal detail that struck him deeply. "What I know," he says, "is that he came out of surgery at noon and died at 9 o'clock that evening." A gap in time that, according to Milone, makes it difficult to understand what really happened. The former auditor emphasizes that he doesn't want to accuse anyone. He doesn't speak of a crime. He doesn't claim there was any deliberate action. But he doesn't hide his perplexity. He says it openly. He has never been able to understand how Cardinal Pell could have died after a procedure of that kind. For this reason, he uses an expression that is being taken up by many observers today. The cardinal's death is said to be shrouded in mystery. Cardinal Pell had been one of the most determined proponents of financial transparency. His work had exposed opaque economic structures and accounting systems that were difficult to interpret. Many today wonder whether that season of reforms has really continued. And above all, whether the project of consolidated financial statements for the entire Vatican system has been definitively abandoned. Milone's statements don't constitute evidence of systemic irregularities or a formal accusation against anyone, but they do reopen a debate that has never truly died down within the Church. Because when it comes to money, transparency, and accountability toward the millions of faithful who financially support the Holy See, every question inevitably becomes a moral as well as an administrative one. And this is perhaps the most sensitive point raised by the interview: trust. If the faithful perceive that financial information doesn't tell the whole story, the issue is no longer just about financial management. It's about the very credibility of the institutions. This is why the former auditor's words are causing so much discussion, because behind the numbers, behind the balance sheets, and behind the accounting transactions, the question that continues to emerge is a single one. What is the Vatican's true financial situation? What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.